Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're jumping straight into Lesson 10, Mapping Academic Genres. If you've ever felt like navigating academic literature is kind of like wandering through a dense, overwhelming forest without a compass, well, you're in exactly the right place. We're going to map out this vast territory together, making sense of the different types of text you'll actually encounter, from basic textbooks all the way up to master's dissertations, so you can tackle your studies with absolute confidence. Let's get into it. Here is our roadmap for today's journey. We'll start with the academic landscape, move on to textbooks, the foundation, hit abstracts, the quick guide, and then cover articles, the peer-reviewed core. After that, we'll look at reports and dissertations, and finally, navigating your discourse community. All right, starting us off with Section 1, the academic landscape. Before we can really navigate this territory, we gotta ask ourselves a pretty fundamental question. What actually distinguishes an academic text from, just an ordinary piece of writing? Is it just big words and sentences that seem to go on forever? Well, not quite. It's really about reliability, structure, and the specific conventions of the community that produces it. And honestly, the sheer volume of genres out there is absolutely staggering. We aren't just talking about your standard undergraduate essays here. The landscape includes everything from grant proposals and book reviews to colloquia and peer feedback. This proves exactly why we need a map in the first place, right? Because each and every one of these forms serves a very distinct purpose for a highly specific audience. This brings us to a really crucial idea from John Swales, the concept of a discourse community. Swales frames these genres not just as some rigid set of formatting rules, but as living traditions. They are the recurring ways that groups of scholars, whether they're biologists or historians, actually communicate with one another. So when you learn an academic genre, you aren't just learning how to format a paper, you're learning how to actively participate in the verbal life of a specific community. It's like learning the local language. Let's move right along to Section 2, Textbooks, the Foundation. A university textbook is uniquely designed. It presents and explains key information, usually organized pretty logically around chapters and themes. It really serves as the bedrock of established knowledge. You can think of it as a guided, paved tour of a discipline, written by acknowledged experts specifically for students and academic tutors to build a shared, reliable foundation of understanding. And when we're evaluating our sources, trust is everything. A published university biology textbook, say a 3rd edition, that is highly reliable. It's been vetted, edited, and widely adopted. On the flip side, a personal blog article discussing that exact same topic simply isn't held to those rigorous standards. Textbooks essentially give you the safe, well-paved roads of the academic landscape. Next stop, Section 3, Abstracts, the quick guide. So what exactly is an abstract? Simply put, it's your quick guide. Coming in at usually around 200 words at the very beginning of a journal article, it summarizes the entire piece. Because they're often searchable on their own, abstracts are incredibly powerful time savers. They give you a rapid overview of the contents, so you can instantly decide if a really lengthy journal article is actually relevant to your research, before you commit an hour to reading the whole thing. Let's look at how they're built. Almost like a surgeon dissecting anatomy, we can break an abstract down into highly digestible functional stages. It typically moves from the purpose and introduction, setting the scene and stating the goals, through the methods used to gather the data, right down to the results and the final conclusion. Once you recognize the structure, you can scan an abstract in seconds and extract exactly the info you need. All right, moving to Section 4, Articles, the peer-reviewed core. Let's pause and contrast where we are now with where we started. Textbooks provide broad educational overviews explicitly written for students. Journal articles, well, they're an entirely different beast. They offer highly specific, novel research, and they're written for an audience of academic peers, other experts who are already well-versed in the field. The training wheels are officially off. So what should you expect when you dive into a journal article? They focus tightly on a specific issue and use a really formal technical style. You'll often spot impersonal vocabulary and long, complex sentence structures. But the absolute most important thing to remember here is that they are peer-reviewed. This means other academics in the field have rigorously checked, challenged, and verified the methods and findings before it even gets published, ensuring the utmost reliability. Getting into Section 5 now, Reports and Dissertations. Now, a master's dissertation or thesis is a monumental undertaking. We're talking about a massive text ranging anywhere from 10 to 20,000 words. It's written by a student to achieve a degree award by presenting original research results. This isn't just another assignment, it's evidence. It's read by your tutor and an external examining committee to prove that you've officially reached the required level of expertise in your field. And how does this structure scale up into a full research report? Well, particularly in STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and maths, a typical report follows a very logical, conventional line. It starts with the abstract, moves into the background and literature review to establish context, details the method and results, and finishes up with the discussion, conclusion, and recommendations for future work. It's designed to be completely objective, focusing entirely on the procedure and the actual findings. And finally, Section 6, Navigating Your Discourse Community. Here's the thing, not all genres are universal. The way you write depends heavily on your specific discourse community. For instance, writers in STEM subjects typically use objective, passive language. They tend to suppress human agency, meaning they focus on what was done, not who did it. Conversely, writers in the humanities and social sciences often embrace a much more subjective positioning, making extensive use of first-person pronouns like I or we to advance their arguments. It's super interesting how entirely different disciplines have completely different typical genres that they expect their students to produce. If you're in the sciences, your core genres are going to be lab reports, project proposals, and field notes. But look over at the humanities, like English, history, or fine arts, and you're expected to master essays, critical analyses, and translations. Your map literally changes based on where you choose to study. So, as you continue your academic journey, navigating through the textbooks, the peer-reviewed articles, and eventually writing your own dissertations, I want to leave you with this final thought. Have you identified the discourse community you belong to? And more importantly, which specific texts will you need to master to not just survive, but truly dictate the conversation in your field? Keep mapping and keep learning.